Mabuhay, and welcome to Rural Art Connection, the place where your boredom ends and your creativity begins.
Start the morning with a little vodka. Look how many of you are here. This is so great on a Friday at 10:30. Wow. How much coffee have all of you had? None? All right. That's it. We're all going.
Thank you for bugging out of work and skipping school. We encourage all of that.
So if anybody has questions, there are 2 microphones set up. I'm sure they would be happy to take your questions. I will get us started. Do you want me to do the deep cut? Sure. Okay. So I saw that you were in Second of Boost and you're a huge fan of Sweeney Todd.
Huge fan of Sweeney Todd.
Now, do you like all Sondheim?
I love all Sondheim.
Even Sunday in the Park with George?
I like
Yes! That's a yes. So I did see that you did a guest role on Murder, She Wrote.
I did.
With Angela Lansbury, the eponymous Mrs. Lovett.
Yes.
Did you lose your mind?
I did because I saw Sweeney Todd when I was like 11 years old in New York City, because I'm old, and the original production with Angela Lansbury and Len Cariou, and it literally blew my brain apart. It's just like you get to the fork in the road and I chose the dark side because I was madly in love with Sweeney Todd. And Angela Lansbury and my twin sister and I all share the same birthday, and my dad wrote her husband, and we actually got to go up and meet her in her dressing room after one of the performances when I was a kid. And then years later, I still had my Sweeney Todd poster from 1979, and I brought it to the set of Murder, She Wrote, and I was a guest star. I don't know, I was crying the whole week. My character was, not me. And at the end, I had her sign my poster, and then years later, Liam O'Brien of Critical Role fan, along with so many other things, was doing, I think, All My Sons with Len Cariou. So I said, please can I come and meet him? And I got Len to sign my poster too. So yeah, I'm uber nerd, uber gigantic Sweeney Todd freak out. In fact, my twin sister just played the beggar woman in a production in Maryland.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for humoring my deep cut question. I'm
Anytime.
sorry I didn't deep cut that much for you.
No, it's okay. I don't have a deep cut.
Really?
It's good, yeah.
You
I'm
don't
very
do
shallow.
prog rock questions?
A very shallow person.
Well, I see we have a lot of people, so let's kick it over to Vox Machina.
Yes, good
Hi.
morning. How do you want to do this?
Hi, so my question is for Mary, and it is a critical role question. I was wondering if you have any plans to return to the show as Zara or as a new character, maybe Campaign 2, please?
If they ask me, I think all Matt would have to say is, Mary, and I would be like, yes, 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 yes. I've become obsessed with D&D and uber obsessed. I don't know if it's the game or the dice, because I'm obsessed with the dice. Laura Bailey gave me the dice curse. And not the Will Wheaton dice curse, but just the obsessive need to own as many die as possible. So I would love to. We've got a home game that we haven't played in a while because one of our plunderers had to get some surgery done, so we've been waiting to get back to that. But yeah, I would play in a heartbeat. And it stinks because every time I do a con, which is a lot, especially this time of year, it's always traveling on Thursday nights, and I always miss the show. So I'm desperate for Critical Role stats. I read everything on Twitter to be caught up. I heard there was some fun Yasha stuff last night that I missed. So for sure. In fact, I just found a meteorite, and I gave it to Gil to have it make it into a D20 because I'm obsessed.
She rolls constantly. It's like, honey, what do you want for breakfast? I don't know, roll for it. I mean, it's bad. It's so bad. The obsession is real.
I just got a Team America D20 made by Gilda Blacksmith that says, yeah on one side and F on the other. So it's an F, yeah,
It's
D20.
a few more letters.
Yeah, if you know what I mean. But it's early and I'm not going to swear.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
This is for Steve.
Yay.
If Samurai Champloo was a dating sim still set in the Edo period, what would Mugen's first pickup line be?
If it was not set in the...
Oh, if it
was a dating site. Oh. Would you like to see my dumplings? You're very welcome. he's always after dumplings. No, it's early. I would have gone there if it was maybe 2 hours later.
All right, go there.
I like you.
Hi.
Anyways, my question is for the both of you. What are the most difficult roles you've done?
Physically, Wolverine. Just because when you start here and you go for like 4 hours at a time, the whole body hurts. And I don't have a healing factor like he does. So, yeah, there's a lot of recuperation time.
Yeah, there was some Resident Evil game. I played a zombie queen, and I was like, I'm just gonna blow out my voice and see what kind of noises I can make. And it was a mistake because it took like a month and a half to recover, which was bad. I basically ran over my trombone in the driveway, basically, because I just ruined my instruments. So.
But it's so hot when you do that.
It's so hot. They're emotional, like playing Governor Price on Star Wars Rebels. I don't know if anybody has seen all of season 4. I won't spoil anything, but it was difficult at times to play a character that. It's fun to play someone that's that vicious and who basically has an iPad for torture, but it's also hard knowing how much you're hurting a family for. So that was difficult. But otherwise, it's really fun. I mean, look, we're so lucky to be able to do what we do. We're really, really fortunate, and really the only pain that we go through for the most part is just how our voices really are affected by the roles that we do, which can be very painful at times.
Or the traffic getting to the studio.
Or the panels,
The traffic getting to the panels.
Sorry.
It's not here. Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thanks for getting up early.
Yeah.
Sort of building on that question, for your voice acting roles, do you prefer to voice regular, well-adjusted human beings, or is it more fun to go with angry, shouty monsters?
Yes. We are voiceover whores. We'll do anything.
Yes.
We're just happy to work. It's all fun, I think, right?
Yeah. Heroes I find to be much more conflicted. So it's fun to play someone that's really going through some sort of crisis because the hero has to for us to learn something. He's our protagonist. But personally, I love playing the villains because they are such, their intentions are very clear, and they usually really enjoy what they do. So it's fun to play someone that has that clear an intention, so for sure.
And creatures are fun. Creatures, monsters, that sort of thing. They're always fun. That's where I started in my career. And the voice actors that I'm most fascinated by are people like Frank Welker and D. Bradley Baker, who are really normal-looking people, and they go up to the microphone and it's fantastic. I love doing that stuff.
Yeah, and it's fun to direct, too. I directed Dee yesterday as a monkey in an episode of a series, and it was just, it's like, and now I shall be a monkey, and it's just an hour of, and it's so much fun, and it's just, yeah,
he's a method actor, too. He throws his own poo when he does that.
He does. I still have some in my ear, but we'll clean that up later.
Good DNA.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love your dress.
Thank you, I need it.
You
Really?
did?
Yeah.
That's
Can
awesome.
you come closer so I can see it? It's so pretty. It's a Clone Wars one.
Is that coming my
that's
size?
Fantastic. This is beautiful. Wow. Have you shown that to Ashley Eckstein?
Eckstein.
Oh my
Wow,
gosh.
well done.
You know what? I'll take a picture of you afterwards and send it to her, and then she'll steal your design and you can sue her, and it'll be a wonderful thing. You'll make a lot of money. But you look amazing. Well done.
Back to question first. I want to say, even though you blew your voice out on Resident Evil, you did a fantastic job as Alex Wesker, so kudos to you for that.
Yes.
But I actually came up with 2 questions, but for fairness, I'll just ask one. So you get to choose, do you want a silly question or a serious question?
Silly.
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 That's
Okay, this is just for Mary then.
He's the silly one.
I know.
Right here.
So how was it directing a shirtless Crispin Freeman on Wolverine?
Fantastic. Oh, that was amazing.
Crispin is Crispin, first of all, it's amazing. We love shirtless Crispin there should just be nothing but gifs of shirtless Crispin. But we've lobbied so hard to get that show. I met Crispin at my first con, A-Con, I think, in Chicago. And Toshihiro Kawamoto, who did the character design for Cowboy Bebop, was there. And he had pictures of wolves in this new show that he was working on. And he brought pictures of the character design. And Crispin and I freaked out. And we contacted Yutaka Maseba and said, we've got to get this show. So Crispin was integral in us getting to work on Wolf's Rain, which is one of the most depressing and beautiful shows we've ever worked on. So he had to be shirtless in order for us to keep our spirits up.
And for the,
Oh, no, you talk.
I was just gonna say for the record, pantsless Crispin Freeman is fantastic too.
No, Pantsless Bloom is the best. But I'm biased.
And you mentioned that you definitely helped out a lot on the mythology aspects
Yeah.
of that show,
'Cause-
especially with Rockaway being paradise instead of heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, Crispin's a genius. I always feel like you should be teaching at Harvard, and he's so smart, and I love him.
He's kind of a lifeline for the industry, for anything mythology related.
Yeah, for mythology, and then for Star Wars, it's Sam Witwer, and there are a couple of key people in our industry that keep us sane and correct in our facts.
We don't gotta know nothing because we got smart people around us.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Hey Bub, how are ya?
Doing swell. Whoa. Yeah. All right. So Steve Bloom, do you prefer working on like more live action stuff with like what you do with Logic's music videos, or just like smaller projects like you do with Toonami, or smaller voice projects, or like larger where you're like the main character and stuff?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yes.
I like working on everything. I have purposefully avoided on camera just because I don't like it. I don't like being on a set for 14 hours. I would only do that for Logic. Do you guys know Logic? We were again, and I worked with him on a couple of albums, and he had me dress in old man makeup. We did a skin wig and aged me down with liver spots on my head and everything. And I was playing his evil boss in the new video that was just released recently called Every Day. So check that out. That was really fun. It was fun because it's him. I love him. But I absolutely prefer to be in street clothes behind the mic in a dark padded room where it's safe. Voiceover is where I started, and voiceover is where I'll end. And I was part of the on-camera world for quite a while. I worked for a film company, and I got to see how people were treated, and I just didn't like to see how people were treated and how actors treated each other. It was so brutal. And in our community, we all take care of each other. So it's a family that doesn't sabotage each other's work, and that's the environment I choose to be in. Right on, man. So a superheroine, Bub. The best there is of what you do, and what you do is pretty nice.
All right, this is a question for both of you. So a Code Geass sequel was announced like a year and a half ago. How do you feel about returning to Code Geass as Cornelia and Toto?
Well, I'll be playing Toto this time, and Steve will be playing Cornelia. We thought it might be a nice, and shirtless. I'll be pantsless. Steve will be shirtless this time. You know, I did hear about this new incarnation of Code Geass, but I don't know who's doing it. We haven't heard anything.
They haven't hired us.
Yeah, so I don't know if they ask us to do it. Of course we'll do it. I love Cornelia. Anytime I get to yell at Johnny Young Bosch, I'm a very happy person. Very happy person. Because he's too nice. And he needs to be brought down to humanity level. But yeah, of course, we'd love to be. I would love to be a part of it, you know.
We're waiting by the phone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's never up to us.
Never.
Hey guys,
Hi.
just a quick question for both of you. You guys have voiced everything, pretty much?
Not yet.
Not yet, we're trying. What were your favorite roles, and if you remember, your favorite lines?
Oh. It's like, how do you choose a favorite child, you know? I mean, it's... okay, I always try and answer this question of, these are roles that changed my life, that really influenced my career or me as a human, as opposed to my favorite roles. Playing Julia in Cowboy Bebop and directing Cowboy Bebop was the first thing I ever directed. It's where I met my fiance, my love, Steve. And Spike and Julia together forever was amazing. Ghost in the Shell playing the Major, because I, in all of my on-camera stuff, played battered women and women who needed to be rescued. And after you play that enough, it starts to sort of seep into your psyche. And I was like, why do I keep playing these women who don't have a voice, right? And when I started playing the Major, I was like, oh, I found my strength. So she helped me find my own strong female voice inside of me, which I thought was really fantastic. And then Governor Price, just to be a part of Star Wars. I can remember sitting in the theater in 1977 and not wanting to be there because we had to wait 3 hours to see this stupid space movie with an octopus in it. What is this? And I remember a long time ago, galaxy far, far away, and the minute that downbeat hit, I was like, and I don't think I breathed. I don't think anybody took a breath for like a minute. And to see your name in that light blue font in front of a star background, just, I never thought I would be a part of that universe. So for sure, that completely changed my life and made me proud, so proud to be a nerd and to be a part of a community of awesome, awesome, creative nerds. I love nerds. We are nerds, proud and strong.
Yeah, I would concur on the Bebop thing. Spike was my first leading role in anything, and I was terrified through a lot of it. It was a transformational role for me, and like Mary was saying, that the roles that I call my favorites are the ones that impacted my life personally, and that show is where I learned how to act for reals. I was kind of faking it with creatures and bad guys and stuff, but she taught me the fine points of nuance and of vulnerability in acting at that time. And then 20 years later, we become a couple, and you know that's an amazing thing. It's that will last for the rest of my life. So that show's definitely had a huge impact on me, and it also was a gateway show for so many other things in the United States. Toonami and Cowboy Bebop brought a whole new audience to the art form of anime that may not have otherwise seen it. So I feel like we all owe a lot to that show. It's an amazing thing. And then with Star Wars Rebels too, I've been part of the Star Wars universe for a long time in the video games, but to actually play a character that was not only a new race introduced to the Star Wars canon, but based on a Ralph McQuarrie design that was never realized until then. He was, for those of you who don't know, Zeb from Star Wars Rebels is basically the prototype for the original Wookiee. Chewbacca was originally a hairy guy that looked like Zeb. They actually made an action figure that looks just like Zeb, but with hair on him. And that was never realized. They kind of put that aside for years, and so I got to bring that to life in the context of that show. And every time I see anything, I'm a big Star Wars fan too. I was there in 1977 for the first screenings of it. And to actually get to sit in and watch that show play out once we've recorded it is the biggest nerdgasm you can possibly imagine. Yeah, but other characters, Wolverine, of course, just because it's Wolverine. And I also like the little characters too, like
Killmon from Digimon, because it was so different from everything else that I had done. I played all these big bad guys and tough guys, and he had this sweet sensibility to him, and was just interested in friendship.
And it was the first show that I was able to show to my kids. So thank you.
Stan, may I ask you a quick question? You talk about Cowboy Bebop. Can you talk about the tattoo?
Yes, this tattoo right here is actually the sound wave for bang. It's the very last thing that Spike says in the series. And yeah, I was actually at my tattoo artist as a consultation for a much bigger piece that I have across my shoulders. And well, I don't know if I can do it here. Yeah, I can't really do it here, but
That's the end of it, but it's like pauldrons. It's all the way around.
I'm not gonna take the shirt.
Woo! Ow, ow!
It's not that kind of panel.
Yeah. So I was in there for a consultation with this thing, and this guy is a very spiritual tattoo artist. This is all Hawaiian art that I have, all symbology. And while he was there, he said, "You want to do something else? What would you like to do?" And I said, "Well, I'd like to do something that's that reflects my voiceover career, but I don't want a cartoon character on there." And one of our friends Susie Goldish. She's an engineer, and she has this little sound file on her arm, and it's just a microsecond of her favorite symphony. And I thought, what a great idea to do something audio-based. And so I brought up the idea to him. He loved it, and he said, and I was going to do it like this big, and he goes, no, bigger, 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 bigger. And he would have done it all the way up my arm if I had the chance. But the great thing about that tattoo is that because he's such a spiritual guy, everything has to be kind of almost ceremonial. And so when he was doing that tattoo, he said that it would bleed if he didn't go over each line a bunch of times, because it had to go deep. So each line he went over about 8 times until it was a bloody pulp at the end of it. And he had it all wrapped up in cellophane at the end of the session, and it was gory. And his partner is a Polynesian guy too, and they have these drums around the tattoo parlor. And when they hadn't seen each other for a while, they go on tour and they come back together, they have a ceremonial drum circle. And while I was getting my tattoo, I told them I was a hand drummer too, so they had me sit down with them, and they wanted me to play with them. And I said, well, I just got the tattoo, that's not really a good idea. He goes, no, I want you to play. And so I start playing, and blood is squirting out as I'm playing, and it's getting on the drum, it's getting on the floor, it's getting my clothes. And I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He goes, no, keep going, harder, harder. And it was part of the ceremony of all of it. So not only was it very meaningful for me because of the content of the tattoo itself, but the ritual of the blood ritual that I went through for it. It was pretty awesome. So yeah, pretty cool. Thanks.
So you're both veterans of the voice acting community. Has the voice acting process changed in any major ways over the years?
I think the technology has changed more than anything. When we started, it was still on tape. We were still recording things on tape and different tracks and everything else. And if the engineer screwed up and recorded over another actor's track, we had to bring the other actor back in. When we're doing, just like for anime, when we do ADR, we started off and there were no beeps, and now there are beeps, now there's Pro Tools, now we digitize all the voices, so you end up looking at waveforms like this, which we can stretch or compress, slide around, so you can really fine-tune the sync. It's gotten a lot easier, which I think gives the actors a lot more freedom when we have to do stuff like anime and like that. But I think the essential, acting is acting is acting is acting. It's always been that way. If anything, it's just what is popular or what is appealing, the style, the end result may have changed. The original Thundercats, the way that was acted is probably going to be very different compared to the new Thundercats that's about to come out. But in terms of the craft itself, I think it's the same, yeah, for sure.
Just a lot more of it. So if you're starting in voice acting, there's a lot more opportunities now to try it out. And it still doesn't pay very well, especially in anime. Anime pays almost the same that it did 20 years ago. So it's really hard to make a living doing that. So as a voice actor, you have to prepare yourself for that and find a lot of other opportunities to support you financially through that process.
Yeah, I think the one thing that has changed is, and this is across the board, is diversity. There's the level of diversity now in voiceover is unbelievable. We just announced last week I'm voice directing the new incarnation of She-Ra, which I'm really, really excited about, and it is one of the most diverse casts you'll ever see. I can't wait for you guys to see it. It should be on, I think, Netflix in November, maybe, I'm not sure, but I think the diversity of our industry has really changed and become much more inclusive and expansive, and that's a wonderful thing.
So if you liked this video, go ahead and tap that subscribe button, hit that like, and I'll catch you in the next one.